Welcome, viewers, to another episode of Me with Me, conversations that run in my mind as I go about my daily business. And on today's episode, I want to talk about something that we have all probably experienced at one point or another. Today, people talk about alcoholism, and I have had those conversations as you have when people talk about drug and substance abuse. Someone this week said something that made me start thinking. We probably need to think about alcohol abuse as drug abuse, because the effects of continued use of excessive alcohol or abuse is the same as any of those drugs that we talk about that are harmful to people. And so today, when we talk about alcoholism, almost every homestead has someone that has been involved in it. Many of our homesteads have a sibling that is suffering alcoholism. But what is happening out there? We try to send these people to rehabs, but as soon as they get out of rehab, they walk right back into the environments where this alcohol is available. Have we lost the sense of communal parenting or communal social responsibility, where if you know so-and-so is suffering from this kind of a weakness, you help them out of it? Have we become too commercial that we profiteer out of other people's misfortunes, such that even if you know that someone is suffering from alcoholism, you don't care if they come up asking for alcohol, you still sell to them? Have we lost the moral quotient to determine who needs a certain item, and all we care about is the money that we make out of these people? What could be the problem if, just as a member of whatever the community you are in, someone that is suffering from alcoholism comes to you and you don't make it available to them? In many occasions, these people have sought money because they hardly ever work, you know? I mean, the moment you become alcoholic, you barely work. So you just hang around and, you know, borrow money, and any money that you get, you head on over to whatever it is that you buy the alcohol. On occasions, there are many situations that these people even steal money. These people sell household items to get some money to go and get themselves drunk. It is crazy when someone that has a job drowns into alcohol to the point of losing a job, cutting short their working life, and therefore putting in jeopardy the lives of those that depend on them. Very, very sad picture. And how does this all begin? I want to draw back to what we call peer pressure. As we grow into teen and get into young adulthood, a lot often people say that they want to experience, you know? So is that curious element that drives you into trying different things. Some of you want to just get the feeling of what does it mean when you get drunk. Some of you who try out other drugs, you just want to get a feeling of what it is like getting high. And hardly do you ever think about how far can you go. Personally, I have been a campaigner against those kinds of experiments. It is not obvious that everyone will have to try alcohol or weed or any of all those other drugs at some point in their life. So I think as parents out here, we need to delegitimize the notion that it is obvious that everyone will have to try out some alcohol at some point in their life, and therefore almost kind of excuse it to happen when these kids become teenagers or they're getting into the young adulthood. The Bible says, teach a child the ways of the Lord, and when they grow up, they will never depart from it. Because I think that's a more legit position from where to look at it from. When we have, as a community, to deal with young people getting lost in drugs, getting lost in alcoholism, I mean, these are things that in the olden days you would never really see happening. In fact, where I grew up, we would never imagine a young person drunk because alcohol was for the old people. Very ceremonial, The alcohol was taken, if it was local brew, Muratina or Kiongo or Mashaore or whatever it is, it was made very occasionally, and only the old people would be drinking when they're sitting to talk and have their conversations. So, and this was not a daily thing. So what is it that could have driven the young people to actually taking over, such that today, if you do a census, we have more young people lost in alcoholism than old people. We have more young people drunk than the older people. It's like the tide has shifted, So my concern today is about young people who have fallen to the pressure of actually trying, and therefore in the process getting hooked up to alcoholism. First of all, before you even go too far with it to establish your limits, just know the moment you start getting tipsy, you cannot exactly determine what is right and what is not. As in, you're impaired from that moment on to determine how far you can go. So if there is a time that you can determine how far you can go, is before you get tipsy. And if you're to make a sound decision, it's just not to start. Because the moment you start getting tipsy, you lose the space at which you could decide that this is when I stop. In my mind, I feel life out there has so much more to offer that using our sober minds, we can be able to determine what do we want with ourselves. We can be able to determine how do we solve whatever the situation that we are facing. We can be able to determine how can we find solutions to the problems that we are facing. Well, of course, someone is going through challenges in life, but it doesn't give you a solution. Whatever the amount of money that you spend doing that alcohol could be the money that you spent reducing the size of your problems or taking care of the problems that you are facing, if they are financial. Maybe someone is being stressed out because maybe they are not agreeing with the parents on various things. I do believe we have still good friendships out there. An auntie, an uncle, a friend, a relative, a neighbor, church, someone that you can go to speak to that you trust, who can give you some sound advice without necessarily having to get, that lie impression or that illusion that you create when you take alcohol and get drunk, that you've solved your problem. And of course, counselors. So first of all, I think what we need to have is more conversations about why young people are drowning themselves in alcoholism, why young people are so curious that they want to get an experience with these drugs, why young people are so easily taken away by the desire to experience the effects of drugs and substances that could easily cause them such pain. I wish before you start, even just today, before you get into that spot where you always go, that bar you always walk into, that mama pima that you walk to, That place that you always go get your drink, before you walk in there, ask yourself this question: will going to have that drink have been the best decision? Will spending money in that direction have been the best decision? This is Me with Me. My name is Tony Chirah. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, like, and share this content. God bless.